Hi everyone, my name is Alex Dobson, and today I'm chatting with Jonathan Schloo to learn about his story. He's a serial entrepreneur and inventor, and in the past he's successfully pitched his company Car Generator on the Dragon's Den. Let's go! Hi Jonathan, thank you very much for sitting down with me today. I appreciate you taking the time to do so.
Sure, nice to meet you, Alex.
Please let us know your name, your role, and what you're currently working on.
Sure, my name is Jonathan Schloo and I'm with Car Generator, and Car Generator is a really cool product that basically takes your car and turns it into a generator. Takes your standard family car, whether it's gas, diesel, electric, or hybrid, and it turns it into a simple generator that's only 11 pounds and that'll power your house for days when you need power.
How did you come up with the idea?
So I actually came up with the idea. We love to go camping, and we love to camp, and a lot of the places that we go to camp don't have power. So rather than dragging a big generator, I started with solar panels. We got solar panels on the roof, but it's not enough. So I thought, my car is a generator right there. There's an engine just like there is in a regular generator, and the basic mechanics are the same as a regular generator. So why should I need to drag another big machine around with me? So I came up with a way to pull power out of it, and I tried it and it worked. So we used that for camping for quite a while. And then a big ice storm actually rolled in, and Toronto got hit with an ice storm. We were without power for 3.5 days.
Wow.
And we stayed in our house, and I pulled this gadget out and I used it to power up the essentials of our house.
That's pretty cool.
Not your hot tub, not your walk-in wine cellar, not all that, but the essentials, which are your furnace,
right,
your fridge, your freezer, a couple of lights, a few computers. We stayed like that for 3.5 days using just our car for power.
Wow.
Now our poor neighbors, they actually moved out, and I call them poor because they moved out and their pipes froze, they had damage, there was all kinds of problems, insurance claims. We stayed in our house for 3.5 days. When the power came back on, we'd actually only used about a half a tank of gas. That's it.
Wow. That's impressive. And it powered your essentials for 3.5 days?
The essentials. No damage to the car, no damage to the house. Worked beautifully, nice and clean and quiet. No one complained about generator noise. It was great.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
Are you an engineer or an electrician such that you were able to invent this product?
So I actually had run a technology company for about 20 years.
Okay.
I sold that, and before that, however, I had always been very, very electrical. I actually go around on garbage day, one of my favorite days, and I'd
really?
I would find things in the garbage as a kid, and I would pull them out and I would actually fix them. So I found clock radios, I found vacuum cleaners, I found irons, and I would fix them. Like I would take them apart, number one, just to take them apart to see what was inside, how do they work, and then in a lot of cases I was able to fix them. So I was able to fix them and either give them to friends, or in some cases I think I sold one or two of them.
That's so neat.
But it was really cool. So I've always been very electrical, and in fact I've created my own, one of my very first projects, I built my own modem. So yeah, actually with the circuit board, back in the day where you actually etch it.
When was that?
That was in the 70s, 80s, something like that, I think.
Wow.
So I actually bought components, transistors, capacitors, resistors, and then you buy a piece of copper board, and then you draw with this special thing on it, and then you put it in an acid bath, and it etches the board, and then you solder your components in. So anyways, I actually built my own modem from scratch.
Did it work?
It worked. And I used printed circuit boards. So anyways, I've always been very electrical. I probably should have become an electrical engineer, but somehow I got into the path of computers instead. So okay, I've always loved it.
So it makes sense. It makes sense. You've had that background.
Always.
Fair enough. And what kind of formal testing did you need to complete to have a product that has high voltage going through it officially certified for sale?
Sure. So actually I was able to leverage something, so the components we use are off the shelf.
Okay.
So they are already UL and CSA and ETL certified, which are
those the safety regulation
they are
bodies?
Yeah. So they're the products that we build now, the components inside it are already safety certified that way. way. So I didn't have to recreate that. That's already been done by the manufacturer, and that's already completed by them.
Components that you put into your end product.
Of the main power unit that's inside it is already certified. So there's no, I don't need to do anything with that. So.
Okay. So I guess you got through that quicker than you expected.
I did, but I had to figure out, one of the challenges was to figure out, okay, I've got this thing, but how do I connect it to my furnace? And people kind of scratch their heads about that, because up till now, most of the furnaces are hardwired into the electrical panel.
So they're not plugged into like a wall socket,
no,
such that you can just pull them out?
No. Now the new ones that are coming out, they are, like the wall-mounted furnaces or wall-mounted hot water heaters, the tankless hot water heaters, they all just have a plug on them. You basically plug in, because now people have, I guess, the engineering standards, the power consumption has come down a lot, so that you can just use a plug now. It's a dedicated plug in those cases. But that was one of the challenges, is how do I get power to the furnace? And people do all kinds of crazy stuff on the internet, make a cord that's, got, like you can electrify people with, but you don't want to do any of that, because that's dangerous.
Yeah, that does sound dangerous.
It is very dangerous. So what I had to first come up with is, how can you put a plug in your furnace? And there's a really simple way that's very safe. Basically, you put a plug in your furnace. So you can see it on our website, www.cargenerator.com. In the videos section, you can see how the Electrical Safety Board says and recommends that you could put a plug on your furnace when you need to. Yep. Or there's a very simple switch that actually mounts on your furnace that has like a male recessed plug that you can just plug an extension cord into.
Does that switch come with the Car Generator product?
No, you can buy it as an accessory. You can add on, and there's a couple of different ways you can do that. Okay. But that was one of the challenges, is how do you power this thing that's hardwired into the electrical panel? And the answer is, you basically have to put a plug on it.
Do you offer a service like to have that sort of kit installed such that you could take your furnace and plug it directly into a wall socket?
So we don't offer that service. No, we don't actually do that. But any there's so many great electricians out there who can simply install that. It's not a very complicated process. Essentially, using a plug in a receptacle, it's like installing. If you ask an electrician to come in and install an outlet, an extra outlet in your home, that's effectively what it's like.
Okay, so it sounds like if people are planning to power their furnace in the case of a power failure, they should have that installed in advance of some sort of power failure or storm, and not run out and try to get this product in the dead of the storm.
Very much so. And in fact, I'd go even a step further than that. I would envision that there's no reason that every furnace out there wouldn't actually have a plug on it. There's no reason not to. In terms of material costs, maybe it's an extra $50 or $100 for that thing. So my thinking on it is that there's no reason not to put a plug, an emergency plug, on every furnace out there. So, but it'll take some time for the industry, because they're just busy putting in furnaces and running ducts and doing all these kinds of things. But it's the one small thing that if you need to plug your furnace in, you need this little device. It's $50 or $100, and so I would say put a plug on every furnace.
Makes sense.
Why not?
Fair enough. How long did it take you to get that product behind you, from concept in your mind to the product that we see here today?
I'd say about 4 to 5 years, actually.
Okay.
And that was one of the lessons learned. So I came up with the idea, and I just moved on it very slowly, thinking methodically, thinking through all the different pieces of it, creating some units, testing them. Part of that was very methodical, because I wanted to make sure, like I said on Dragon's Den as well, I didn't want to sell 10,000 and say, here, look at this thing, it'll do this amazing thing, and sell 10,000 and I missed something.
And fall short.
Right. So now instead we've sold hundreds, and in that process we've refined exactly what works and what doesn't, and so now we can ramp to the thousands or hundreds of thousands of units, and we will definitely. But I wanted to do it very slowly and methodically at the beginning to make sure that we got it exactly right and it really worked well.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If you live in a condo in downtown Toronto, for example, could this product still be useful to you?
Not for backup power, but you could use it and you're camping.
Okay.
So if you like to go away camping, if you live in a condo and you wanted to go somewhere, say you wanted to drive your car somewhere and use your Instant Pot, to make a picnic and warm up some soup, 100% use it. You were driving
Makes
somewhere,
sense.
you wanted to go into a park, and watch a movie. Totally do it, right? So you can use it for that. Or if you live in a condo and you have a cottage, you can use it for your cottage. We have a good number of people that use this for their cottage, their home, or for camping. So you can use it for a lot of other things, and it's very light. It's 11 pounds, and there's no maintenance, there's no smell, there's no gas or oil to put in it. So you can store it in your condo or in your car or under your bed, wherever you like. So
fair enough. So it sounds like it has other uses apart from just kind of in an emergency type scenario.
It does, yeah.
Pretty cool. At the beginning, I know you used crowdfunding through Indiegogo to, I guess, offset some of the costs of development. Why did you choose to go down the crowdfunding route? What was your funding goal, and did you meet it?
Sure. So I didn't do it to offset costs. I actually did it intentionally as a market test.
Okay.
So I set the goal fairly modestly at $10,000, and $10,000 is not really a lot.
Yeah.
I set it as at $10,000 to test the market to see
if there was interest.
See if there was interest, see if people got the concept, see what kind of price point I could price it at.
Yeah.
Because ultimately you know what it costs to produce the thing, but then you need to have profit and you need to have dealer margin in there and those kinds of things. So I wanted to test some of the price points to see what people would buy it at and if this thing had legs, basically. And it was kind of cool because a portion of the people were family and friends that bought it because they thought, this is cool, I want to support you.
Yeah.
But there was lots of other people that just heard about it and said, I love it, and they bought it.
That'll be good for me.
Exactly. And that was really a very simple, non-risky market test. I mean, just get your idea out there, and I'd say if you're thinking of inventing something, you know what? One of the things I'll say, people are so worried that it's got this idea, someone's going to steal this idea, and I honestly would say that an idea is like a carrot seed, or it's like a bag of carrot seeds. There's thousands of them in there, and there's thousands of ideas. Like every day you get ideas, I get ideas, people get ideas. Yes. But without actually digging the ground, putting it in there, watering it, doing something about it, putting a lot of effort, the idea is very, very little. It's the development of all of that. So I would say crowdfunding is a great way to check your idea and see if people like it.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah. I guess you do hear the old expression that everybody has an idea. It's just the execution that matters. And,
it is.
Few people have the time, want to pursue the idea, and I guess push forward enough to actually successfully execute whatever idea you have, or maybe we have in common, but then only one of us goes out there and actually pursues it.
Absolutely. And another big piece of it is that when you have an idea, even if you execute flawlessly, if it's a dumb idea, and other people, you think it's a great idea, but no one else thinks it's a great idea, then you just wasted, 50 grand developing this idea and executing perfectly, but if no one else thinks it's a great idea and wants to buy it, it's going nowhere, right? So it's a really great way to test the reality of the marketplace for your idea.
Were you able to meet your $10,000 funding goal?
I was. Yep, we made it, no problem.
And then you were able to ship the products. So
then the busy work began. Then I actually said, okay, I've got a real product on my hands here. Then I went to a design company that would professionally take it, do it in the right way, and develop it. Because you think, how do you actually create a product?
That was Mako, right? I think you worked with them on the design.
I did. Mako Invent.
What specifically did they help you with?
So yeah, Mako Invent was amazing. If you've got an idea, I would say I actually knew him through my previous company that I had run, which was a computer programming and database company, and I knew him through an entrepreneurs group I was in. So when I had this idea about I need to make a product now, went back and I thought about who do I know, and he came to mind. So I sat down with him. When I was creating this product, I'll tell you honestly, I actually took the parts, and I went and stood in different stores. It's kind of a crazy story, but I actually went in stores way early on. I stood in stores like Home Depot or Mountain Equipment Co-op or whatever, and I looked for ideas of things. What case could I put this in? What could I use to do different pieces of
off-the-shelf parts that you could use to build your product?
Right.
That's pretty cool.
So that's what I did. I ended up, my very first version of this, just to have something to put this in, was actually, believe it or not, a Mountain Equipment Co-op bicycle bag. It was like a rubber, waterproof, weatherproof bag that I made.
Is that red? Was that red?
Yeah, it was kind of orange, red, orange.
I think I saw that on your Indiegogo campaign.
It's so funny because that's where you start, and I didn't know how do you create a case, how do you thermoform, how do you do injection molding, but that's where I started, is how do I do this, what's the function, how does it need to attach, and it was all good parts of the early process. So I would say going to the earlier you can go to a company like Mako, they'll just they can fast track all that. It took me years to do this, but that could have really been compressed if I got their help a lot earlier, quite honestly.
So it sounds like basically you could have done what you got their help with, but it's just much more efficient generally to go to a company or someone that has that expertise and just help you basically fast track the project.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. It's just like if you have a package to deliver to California, you could drive it there yourself, but if you go to a company that specializes in getting packages to California,
it's a good analogy.
It'll get there a lot quicker.
I like that.
I'll share another little secret with you. So
definitely.
Okay, this is really fun. So I put this idea out on the internet sometime, long before that. So I put it out there, and I ran a couple of very small Facebook campaigns and things like that. Yeah. And I got some very interesting and very raw feedback. So some people said, I love it, this is fantastic, but I got lots of critical feedback, which was amazing. So basically you're out there with this baby you've birthed, and people are saying, that's an ugly baby. And it's really, I remember, it really is disheartening. I remember to this day, seeing those comments, this is a stupid idea, or it'll destroy your car, or this, or all these kinds of different things. But I am actually, in life, sometimes the worst things that happen to you are, in fact, the best things. So I will say, this was one of the best things that happened to me. And I thank those armchair critics, I truly do, because they actually prepared me with all the kinds of tough questions. And then when I went on Dragon's Den, there was nothing really they could say that would rattle me.
Nothing that could faze you yet.
No,
because you heard the worst.
I got beat up way worse before on the internet.
That's a good tip for everybody else out there.
With time, I had got beat up on the internet with time to then think about it, reflect on it, come up with the right answers, think through the different pieces. So it was actually a blessing in disguise. So I'd say sometimes the worst experiences you get in life actually can be some of the most helpful things for you.
Thanks for sharing that. Sure. I suppose another takeaway is that you have to share your ideas in order to get that critical feedback. So you can adjust and change your pitch as needed. Otherwise, if you just keep it in your mind the whole time, you'll never really know what others have to say about that, and you can't change accordingly to what the market's looking for.
That's it exactly. So
what's been the absolute toughest experience of getting the product to where it is today?
The toughest experience, I don't know if I'd call it the toughest, but it's the most challenging. And what that is coming up with the story. Really coming up with what is the essence of the product, what does it do, not only what does it do, because that's pretty simple, you say I make this box and it does this, but coming up with a story of why people want it, why it's better than something else, why it's not a stupid product, why why it's something you can't live without. And it's been a multi-year journey for me to come up with that. And one of the early criticisms early on, it's interesting, was, it's 1,000 watts. What can you do with 1,000 watts? Because the old school of how people approach backup power, first of all, no one actually ever wants to buy backup power. No one actually says, oh wow, it's like a new car, I want this sexy generator. No, it's a mandatory purchase.
Of course, it's an essential, I guess.
It's an essential, it's like you have to have it. And so the way that a lot of people approach that is they call their electrician, the electrician comes in with a big sheet, starts adding up, okay, your hot tub, and your dryer, and your washer, and your stove, and all these things, and they come up with this monster of a generator that you have to buy. that cost you $10,000.
Wow.
This big thing, and you're like, oh man, I really don't want to spend 10 grand on another freaking thing on the lawn. You know, it looks like another ugly air conditioner. Like, I'll be very, very frank about it, right? So that's the old style of how people approach generators. So you call your electrician, that's what they say. You think, okay, we got to bite the bullet, you know, and that's what they do. So our approach is very different. I say, what's the minimum you need in a power outage? That's a game changer. You know what? Instead of this 500-pound beast on the lawn or in your garage that someone has to wheel out and store, this thing that weighs 11 pounds right here.
One-armed.
One-armed.
It must be light.
Right? It's 11 pounds. Think about it differently. What can I get by with that I can use that to power with without the hassle of a generator?
Right.
Because that's the thing, right?
Trade-off.
It's a trade-off. It's a different way of thinking. It's like people, you know, if people say, is a really big car better? Like if you got a big 13-seat van, right, is it better than like, you know, an Austin Mini as an example?
Yeah.
Well, no, they're different things. You think about it, if you just, you know, if you want to take your family and all your relatives on a tour, then you need the big van. But if you think about it, you're driving around most of the time with just a two-seater car, driving to work, maybe you take your wife to dinner, you know. So it's really a different way of thinking about it, and that's a game changer of coming up with that idea and that story to say, you know what, think about what you can do with 1,000 watts. You can heat your whole house stays warm. You can, not just a silly gas fireplace in the corner you think everyone's going to huddle around. No, your whole house stays warm, which is great, right? You can run a couple of lights, computers, cycle in your fridge if you need, freezer, and when it's done, put away and forget about it. So it's a very different way. So it's a long-winded way of saying that the most challenging thing is really coming up with the story of the product. Why is it better? Why do people have to have it? Yeah. There's a Simon Sinek has a thing, Apple, you know, and there's a famous talk, the why of the thing. And he points it out really, and I would say absolutely go watch that, and that's a really good course.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I suppose once you kind of really know and you understand what the product is meant to do and what the product should be used to do, you can then use that to sort of refine your 30-second pitch when you're talking to to really anybody, potential customers, investors, etc., because you understand the product and you can just quickly project that in 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, and it's really important because a lot of inventors and business people, they start off with, what is the product going to do, right? And I would say that's okay, that's one facet of it, like this box, you know, makes tomatoes, or this box does whatever, right? But it's more important to actually answer the question of why. Why do you need it? Why is it better? Why do I want it? Why does the consumer want it? Because that will drive everything.
That makes sense. And you mentioned that, so this unit produces 1,000 watts?
This unit, yeah.
Is it up to 1,000 watts depending on your motor size?
Yeah, so this is up to 1,000 watts. Okay. And that's another funny game about the inverter manufacturers. You see the advertising in retail stores and whatever for these big inverters, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 watts. Well, what people don't actually think about or realize is that if you only have, you know, this much capacity in your car, if you get this much inverter,
I understand.
Great, good for you. Well, you're carrying around, you know, a cup of water in a like 5-gallon bucket because you can't actually do anything else with it. So I would say that that's definitely that's an important piece. So.
Right. Okay. And
so it is related. It is related to the alternator side. So this is 1,000 watts because that's kind of the sweet spot for what in the range of what vehicles can produce. I would say smaller cars like a Honda Civic or something like that might be 500 or 600 watts as an example, whereas a full-sized SUV or a truck, 1,000 watts easily. Right. So those are some of the trade-offs. So this kind of covers that spectrum, and then we do have two bigger models as well. If you have a really heavy-duty truck with more capacity, then you can get 2,000 watts or even more from it.
Perhaps like with if there's like two alternators.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, they have dual alternators for sure.
Okay, that's interesting. And now the automotive industry is going towards crossovers and SUVs and trucks, especially here in North America. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like those types of vehicles should easily be able to give you 1,000 watts with the car generator.
That, and the interesting thing is that cars are becoming more complicated, not less complicated. Okay. So, in the old days, it was like a 76 Chevy Impala that had, didn't even have, it had wind-up windows and everything. Now all the new cars have power everything, power, like all these different things, and that's all driven by electric. So a lot of them have a fairly robust output capacity inside, just because everyone wants heated seats, everyone wants power windows, everyone wants everything. So the trend to a bigger power is more common.
Does the unit hook up to your car differently depending on whether the car is powered by gas or diesel, whether it's a hybrid or whether it's a fully electric vehicle?
So it's the same hookup for any of those things. It's basically a pair of booster clamps or booster cables. They're specially engineered, they're high heat, they're custom manufactured by a company in Ohio to be high heat and engine proof, but it's the same type of cables, whether it's gas, diesel, electric, or hybrid.
Okay.
I will say, however, we have developed for frequent users, for people that use this all the time for camping, day after day or whatever, we have a quick connect system. You can, on our website, when you order one of these at cargenerator.com, you can click on a quick connect system, and it's basically like a high-powered plug. You can hang this on the front of your car, clip in, and it's like no fuss, no muss, no booster cables. So you can upgrade to that if you decide that you prefer to have that instead of having booster cables. But it's designed this way, so out of the box you can just take it. 60 seconds later, it is hooked up to your car and producing power. 1 minute, hook it up in a minute, and you get power for days.
And I guess the booster cables connect to your battery, just like when you would go to jumpstart your car, for example.
They do, your battery or your jumpstart point. Some cars have the battery under the passenger seat or in the back. You don't connect it there. You always connect it in the engine compartment, because that's where the power is being generated by the alternator or the DC converter. It's right there, so it's always in the front.
Very interesting. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
Okay, now let's shift to your background and what you were up to before Car Generator.
Sure.
Where were you born and raised?
Sure, I was born and raised in Toronto. My background, actually, I was going to say, is Swiss and German. Okay. And my grandfather in Switzerland was actually an inventor. He was an electrician in the local village, and he was an inventor, and he had created a couple of inventions which are still in some of the museums.
What kind of things?
He was a couple of different things, some kind of radio type devices and things like that. But yeah, it was pretty cool. He was a Swiss inventor. And so it's kind of cool. I guess I've sort of, in a way, carried on some of the traditions.
It's inherited.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, so I did that. I started a tech company. We did custom programming, custom database programming, which then morphed into be a CRM company. Basically, how that happened is I did custom databases. Companies would come to me and say, we want a database to track time cards from our employees. We want to track the time cards and add them up and produce a report. Simple. So I created that, or I created one for everything from churches to dating agencies to whatever, and this would be ways that they could keep track of their members. And then eventually I realized with CRM that there's off-the-shelf packages. Instead of creating it all from scratch, you can take sort of think of it like a spreadsheet and then just customize it and make it what the customer needs. So that's how we got into the CRM business. And then in that business, I actually worked personally with Molson, FedEx, McCain Foods, Sears, big insurance companies, lots of different manufacturers, distributors, a lot of different companies, tailoring their databases to track their sales reps and track their customers and marketing and all these kinds of different things. So
that's interesting. Did you go to school for some sort of computer programming or something related to just computers or electronics in general? Is that kind of what led you to the path of starting this company?
So that's really actually a fun question. So I started out in my computer programming career in high school. One of my math teachers, my computer science teachers, said, he saw that I was bright and interested in these things. He said, look, I've got this friend in Oakville who runs a company that needs someone to do some small programming jobs. Would you be game to try it? And I actually said sure, and I went out there. I got in the GO train, went out to Oakville on a Saturday, and they sat me down. The company was actually Chasco Mobile. It was interesting. They made car seats for high-end vans and things like this. So yeah, and I did a good job at that. And then my parents and friends said, tell people you know, tell friends, tell people at church, whatever, and it just grew.
Very interesting. Your first company was called Quality Integrity, correct?
That's right, yeah.
Is there a story behind that name?
Yeah, there was two things that as I was thinking about the company that I was creating that I wanted to have as hallmarks. And you know what? I would say it's interesting. You have to shoot for something that you want to do. It's, you're not always going to be, it's like FedEx. If FedEx's motto is on time every time, well, I can guarantee you that FedEx is not on time every time, but you have to have a motto and something to shoot towards. And that's really, there were just two hallmarks that I wanted to. Do we make some mistakes along the way? Yep, we did. But you know what, I would say there was something, you have to have a goal and something to shoot towards, and that's what we did.
So it sounds like that was your goal, is basically to provide like those two, quality and integrity as aspects in your service.
Yep.
And I think that's actually interesting that you pointed out that you have to have something to shoot forward.
You do.
Shoot towards.
You do.
That's very interesting.
And critics will say, oh, you didn't do that, or you didn't deliver, or whatever it is. But you know what? You have to have those goals because it's important. I mean, that's what drives your company. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Fair enough. What does CRM stand for everybody out there, and what attracted you to it?
Sure. So CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management, and it's a way of keeping track of your customers. And you think about it, if you're a sales rep and you're going to start calling on customers, you need a way, you call the first guy, okay, you're done with a call, where do you put that? Where are you going to record that?
Makes sense.
When that guy calls you back, where are you going to remember what you said to them last? Now you layer on, you're supposed to report that to your manager,
right,
who wants to know, what did you work on today? What did you do? So those are all the things that a CRM system brings together. It really, CRM is this product that becomes the heart of your company, so that the sales rep knows what they're working on, and sales reps is the life of the business, because
right,
they're what powers the business.
They're bringing in sales, the blood of the company.
The blood of the company. Management needs to know, how are we progressing towards those sales. Production needs to know, what do we have coming up that we need to make.
Yeah.
Support needs to know, what are the problems we're having with that product that we need to then funnel back to take the whole circle. So CRM really becomes this core, this heart of your company that everyone uses to keep track of all those things.
So, for example, like individuals and maybe small businesses probably use Excel spreadsheets to track that kind of information at the beginning.
Yep.
But it sounds like CRM is, software that's used by companies that are getting larger and have more sales agents, just have more customer data to track.
Yeah.
And they can more effectively run reports and generate analytics and basically track their customer data.
Yeah, I would say as a single sales rep, you could probably get by with a book or with an Excel spreadsheet. But as soon as you start getting into more than one of you, or you and other people, then you need a common place to reference that's always up to date, that you can see everything to do with that customer. So yeah, at that point you need to share it.
That makes sense. How long did you do that for?
About 20 years actually. A little bit longer than 20 years actually, but yeah.
It's a long time.
It is a long time.
How did you evolve the business or scale up the business during that time?
So my brother was out traveling Europe and doing, exploring the world.
Fun things.
Yeah.
While you were back here working on it.
Yeah, and then good for him, because you know what, that's great. And then he joined me around 91.
Okay.
And then we grew the business together, and that worked really well. Actually, that worked basically. We worked on landing new clients, on doing marketing, creating websites, doing campaigns, doing events, all these kinds of things, and we worked on it together. Great guy, and enjoyed working with him on that. It's great. So I would say when you work with partners, choose your partner, make sure you work well them, and we had lived together as kids, so we knew what
you knew the ups and downs of each other.
The ups and downs, what buttons not to push, and and that's it. So
that's pretty neat, pretty interesting. Okay, fair enough. And when you were going through building up quality integrity, did you take on investors or additional partners apart from your brother?
No.
No? Okay.
No, we didn't. We didn't really need it. We've always bootstrapped from cash. I mean, investors it's a nice idea, but you then also have to remember you have 2 jobs and you have 2 bosses to report to. I would say, if you're self-funded, you have 1 boss. That's the customer. If you have investors, you now have the customer and your investors, and
Yeah, that makes sense. I was going to say, how would that have changed the business if you'd had investors, but it sounds like you would have additionally had 1 more person to report to.
It'll accelerate growth. I mean, I wouldn't say that I would never do it, but you have more moving parts for sure.
Interesting. And what made you finally decide to sell out of the company?
Oh, there was just an option. There was an offer with another company that wanted to absorb a good chunk of the business, and so that was a good opportunity. And then after that, that was part of the journey. My wife and I bought an Airstream. It's a travel trailer, a nice big silver travel trailer. It's more expensive than a tent, but it's cheaper than a cottage. So we bought that. We love to travel, and we started traveling. And then that's kind of around the time that I realized, okay, I can create power from my car, and we love to travel, and this is actually a product I can use for camping, for my cottage, for all these different things, and that's kind of how it was all born.
Did you have any intentions of starting another business when you were selling your previous company?
No, not immediately, but I had a bunch of ideas, and it's always a little bit foggy or fuzzy. You don't know exactly what you're going to do next, but things appear. You just keep your eyes open and stay busy, and
chase the opportunities.
Exactly.
And what was the most valuable thing you learned building up quality integrity, and is it applicable to what you're doing here at Car Generator today?
I think the most important thing is that the customer is really king. Customer is right.
Customer's number 1.
Yeah, it sounds like an old saying, but what that means though is you have to listen to the customer. You have to listen to what people say, what they suggest, get some ideas, really be tuned in and dialed into that.
Yeah.
Some of the things you're not going to do right away. Some of the things you might not do at all, but you just have to be dialed into that. And with a broad enough spectrum of different customers you're dealing with, you'll get some really important feedback that will shape the product.
And it sounds like that would be very applicable to what you're doing here as well.
Hugely,
Okay.
yeah.
What are some of the most notable failures or mistakes you've had throughout your 20 plus years as an entrepreneur?
Sure. One that comes to mind immediately is, it's interesting, with this product here, it took me a long time. I mean, really, it took 3, 4, 5 years to bring this to where it is today.
Yeah.
And I could have vastly sped that up if I would have taken the idea, gone to like a company like Mako as an example, and they can fast track you through a lot of those things. How do you develop the product? How do you go through the different steps? And I would be way further ahead, at that time. I would say I was quite conservative though. There's a trade-off. You can accelerate that, but I think I just took it slowly. So that was a mistake that I made. I could have been here a couple of years ago.
Right.
And so that's something that would be a takeaway. If you want to accelerate it, get it to market quicker, move it down the chute faster, partner with a company that knows how to do that.
Go with someone that's already done it before.
Exactly, and can guide you in how to do it.
And I guess you only learn those experiences by just going through them yourself. And now you know that if you were to have another product tomorrow, then you would probably follow that path.
Absolutely. I know exactly what I would do with it, how I would take it. Exactly.
Interesting. As a child, did you ever want to become an inventor or an entrepreneur, or did you have any other dreams?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we were sort of forced to be creative, I would say.
Okay.
We grew up, there were 6 kids. My parents didn't have a lot of money. And, we didn't have a TV either. We were raised without a TV, which was interesting because we went to watch TV at friends' houses, but just culturally, my parents didn't think that a TV was...
You didn't have one in the house at all?
No.
Wow.
No. Until later on, they had it for a little bit, on and off, but vastly we didn't. So my parents basically said that, watching TV is a waste of time. And so what was interesting is that forced us to do creative things. Like I went in the garbage. I found things electronics people were throwing out, and I pulled them all apart. I pulled the parts out of them. I harvested, transistors and switches and things out of there, and that really just sparked my creativity and how to make things out of nothing. And so I'd say that's an important piece.
Very interesting. Did you ever find a television? Were you ever tempted to fix that up and watch it?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I found the mother load. I actually found the mother load. It was hilarious. So a couple of blocks from where I grew up, there was a place, and one morning I was going by, and there was a box out in the garbage, and it was like heaven. It had clock radios, it had radios, it had mechanical parts, it had all these things. And what the amazing thing is, I took the box, took it away, took it back home, opened it all up, and fixed these things. Well, wouldn't you know, the next week or the week after, there was another box with more of them. And it turns out it was actually an electronics depot that fixed things that came back from Canadian Tire, as an example. They would take it, rather than sending it back to China, they would just take it, fix it, do whatever, and then put it back and resend it to sell. But the things that they deemed as not worth doing, they just put in this box. So it is this mother load of cool stuff. So I got, like I said, all kinds of electronics, clock radios, computers, TVs, all kinds of things in there. And
did you sell them back to that company once you fixed them? No,
but the guy actually caught me taking the box once, and he said he was a really, really nice guy. He's a Yugoslavian, Macedonian guy, and a really nice guy. He actually said, look, you can't just take this, but I will put a box in the corner. And I've actually haven't told this story to many people. He said, I'll put a box in the corner.
This is outside.
And I'll put some stuff in his shop, and I'll put some things in there that you can have. So don't steal my garbage, don't take my garbage away, but I'll put this box. So he did. So every couple of weeks I went in and I got this box, and it had all kinds of things, and I was just thrilled because it was its mother load of great things that I could then fix up, take apart, blow up, try different things with, and it was great. So he's a really nice guy, and I honor and respect him to this day. He's a really great guy. So
that's so neat. I guess you kept most of these electronics, right? You didn't sell them on, or
no, I didn't really sell them. I actually fixed them up. We used them in our house. There were 6 kids, so we had lots of things to do with that. I gave them away to people, and it's really funny because sometimes I go to old friends' houses, and I see that same clock radio that I gave them 20 years ago is still sitting in the corner, and they're using it. So it's quite funny.
You did a good job.
I guess so. Well, that's an interesting thing. A very good friend of mine hired me to do a computer database program that manages a lot of the transactions for their various companies, very wealthy companies, and I wrote that software in late 80s, 87, 88, I think, something in that range.
Okay.
They're still using it today. It's written in a DOS language. You probably don't even know what DOS is.
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
It's actually written in something that runs under DOS, and they still use it.
They're still using it.
And it still works. And they say it works, and it's trustworthy, and it's reliable. So my only mistake that I made doing that is I just sold it as a one-time fee. I didn't make it. Should have been recurring. Per year. But
you would have been a dragon on the Dragons then.
Oh my goodness.
By now, if you'd done that.
But anyways, I did a good job, and they were really happy with it, and that's really cool. It's really honoring to think that this program that I wrote myself, not my team, but me, actually wrote it like in the late 80s. Someone's still using now. It's like 80, so cool. 90, 2000.
Almost.
What is that?
30 years.
30 plus years.
Yeah.
Amazing. So,
that's crazy.
Anyways.
Thanks for sharing.
For sure.
Okay, now let's shift back to present day. Have you seen a significant spike in your sales after your pitch aired on Dragon's Den?
Massive.
Yeah.
Massive. Absolutely massive. In the year since then, it's about a year today, we've 7 times our revenue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, we've 7 times our revenue of what we'd done in total before that.
For the period prior to that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
So it's crazy. So and now we're just growing and expanding, and it's kind of really cool now because this product in the early days, it was a real fight, but it was a fight that I loved because people were saying like, what? Use your car, it's a generator, what? But now people actually search for me and search for this, and they're like, wow, I found a person who's actually done this.
Yeah.
And they get it and they buy it and they love it. And even more than that, we always ask people, where did you hear about this, right? Marketing 101. And more now people say, I heard about it from a friend.
Okay,
so that's really cool because that's people that have bought it, used it, like it, tell their friends, and now there's this massive sort of groundswell of people who are buying it.
And it's free advertising as well.
It is. So.
And it's trusted, and it's like a trusted thing.
Yeah.
If someone recommends it to you, you're more likely to go get it, right?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
7-fold increase. That's awesome.
It's really amazing. I sat down and did the numbers just a little while ago, and I was stunned because you're just busy with, selling, producing, doing all these different things. But I was just stunned that it was actually 7 times our revenue. So it's really cool.
How hard was it to find the appropriate manufacturers for this product?
So I would say I kind of got lucky because one of the guys that I know just socially, I was just talking about like my challenges of how do I manufacture this. Well, he actually works in a company that does this kind of casing, and that's what he does.
Okay.
It's called thermoforming.
Okay.
So it's basically, you can see on our website on cargenerator.com and videos, you can see how is it made, and it's really cool actually. They take this sheet of plastic, they superheat it, and they suck it down over a mold, and then they cool it, and that's how that's made. So he actually does that. That's his job, and so then he actually helped me sort of in his spare time to create a mold and to make the first couple of runs, and I'm very grateful to him for that.
That's awesome.
So that's really cool.
Is the product assembled in China, or is it assembled somewhere else?
So it's the power unit that's inside it is manufactured in China.
Okay.
It's UL and CSA and all the certifications there. Like it's part of that.
Yep.
Imported here, then we do all and then we do all of the rest of the assembly here.
Okay.
So so about half of it, not half actually, just the internal unit is made in China, but then all the bulk of creating this is all done here in Canada and Toronto.
Interesting. So it's similar to a car where different parts are produced across different countries, and then it's just assembled somewhere.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, so the parts that make this up some are from China, some are from USA, and some are from Canada, and it's all put together here.
That's really cool. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Thank you.
How many patents do you have on that product?
So that was an interesting question. People, I was debating, should I file for a patent or not?
Yeah.
And I did. We filed for a global PCT patent filing, which basically sets a global patent standard where you can then file that one filing, and then you can go into any other different countries that you want.
For protection in those individual markets.
Exactly. Yeah. I would say, some people lose their minds and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in a patent before they even know if this new widget is going to be a hit.
Yeah.
So I would say a patent is kind of like a fence around your house. It's not going to necessarily protect someone, with an armed militia from arriving, but it's a fence, and it defines ownership. And if we're selling this or we're going to sell the rights to this, it's a defined property.
Okay.
And without that, it's just an idea and a following, right? So I would say it was worth doing.
Okay. What markets did you choose to file the individual patents?
Right now in Canada and the U.S., but we can go into other markets depending what we need to do. So.
Did you self-file, or did you get some help, like
no,
lawyer?
we've got an amazing lawyer, very, very good lawyer.
It sounds like the filing process ran pretty smoothly then.
It did, yeah.
Has the patent been issued now, or is
it's in process?
It's in process.
Yeah, these things all take time. It's more important to get the filing in there and to get your marker in the sand in there. So I'd say.
Interesting. Okay. Well. For everyone out there that's watching you today, and obviously impressed of how you conceptualized an idea from your mind to a product standing beside you. Perhaps they have an idea that they're on the fence about pursuing, or they don't know where to start. What's your advice for them?
What I would, there's lots of things that come to mind. Some people say, you're not going to regret the things you did, you're going to regret the things you didn't do. There's people there's always, you got to pay the bills and, keep things organized, all these kinds of things. I would say there's a guy that I went and I watched a couple of years ago is Dan Sullivan. It's the strategic coach.
Okay.
And he talks about how you focus your life, how you focus your business, all these things. One of the things I took away from Dan Sullivan and strategic coach was it's this intersection in your life of 3 circles. It's what you like doing,
okay,
what you're good at, and what people will pay you for. And the intersection of those 3 circles really helps you define what it is that you will, because you can just do a job and not like it, and you'll pay the bills, but you'll just live your life always thinking, wow, I should have done this, I could have done that.
One circle will be empty.
Right, one circle will be empty. And so if you can try to steer your life, and it does take time, it doesn't happen overnight, it's not like you wake up tomorrow and boom, you're all of a sudden doing a new thing. Steer your life to the intersection of those circles. But check out that strategic coach. He's got some good information on that. But basically, think about what you're good at, what you like doing, and what people will pay you for.
Interesting. And then decide, I guess, if you want to pursue that idea that you've always had, or just start on that idea and do something about it.
Start part-time. Come up with the idea. Do a crowdfunding campaign. That's a great way to get started.
Yeah.
It costs you nothing. Actually puts money in your pocket.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I ran the campaign. I had 10 grand in my pocket. And that's kind of very, even though the point wasn't money, it's actually very affirming to have $10,000 in that case worth of people that said, I like this. I think this is a cool product.
Here's my money. Please
Here's
give
my
me
money. Right?
this product.
Exactly.
That must be a good feeling.
It is a good feeling. It's validating, and it encourages you on your journey for sure. And it's not something that you're going to do tomorrow. You're going to say, boom, I'm all of a sudden this person. It's something that you do need to, will take some time, and it'll take some baby steps, but you need to just start moving towards it. And I would say, if you've got an idea, get out there. Do it. Go for it. You can even start simple. You can crowdfund. You can get the idea out there. Don't be afraid that someone's going to steal your idea, because it's not about ideas. It's about execution. It's about actually getting the product out there, getting it, moving it into market.
Yeah.
So get out there, do it.
And the execution is the hard part, like you mentioned. It takes time and commitment, because I know you've said that you've been working on this for 4 to 5 years since you've had the idea. So I guess if you weren't committed, you wouldn't have been doing that.
Right.
And someone that isn't committed to an idea isn't going to really pursue that. So that's why I think you're saying, don't be afraid to share your ideas with others, and might as well just get the validation in the process.
Exactly. And I will say that when it's a new product, one of the things I learned is when it's a new product, you might face some initial resistance from people saying, it's a dumb idea, no, it's not possible, whatever. But if you really believe in that thing and you latch onto that dream and you keep moving it forward, like where I am now, early on in this product, it was very much, people would say, oh, it's not possible, it won't work. Now, almost no one says that, because it's actually in the marketplace. There's virtually no one that says that nowadays, because, dudes, there's hundreds of people using this thing, and lots of happy customers, and they use it, and it works. So, remember that there's that hump to get over in the beginning, where there will be initial resistance, where people say, it's a dumb idea. One of the other things I'll say is Guy Kawasaki, The Art of the Start. He actually has a very good saying, and he mentioned that if it's an important idea, it will be controversial. So people will love it, and some people will hate it. So this is a very polarizing idea, and when I initially put it out there was people that said, wow, this is fabulous. We want this. And there's other people that say, that's a stupid idea. So you have that polarization, but that'll help you refine to make it a really great product, which now today it is.
Once you get over the hump of maybe naysayers or people that are not necessarily sold or understood the idea, it becomes mainstream and then everyone takes it for granted. But initially, there's a hump to get over to convince people, to educate people.
100%.
That makes sense. And I think that's potentially, that hump is where a lot of people may stop or may get,
that's right.
may just get, put down. So it's important to basically get over that essentially in order to make your idea mainstream one day, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
And now let's shift to the future one last time.
Sure.
What's next for Car Generator? Will you be releasing new products or updates to existing ones?
Yep. So we've already started releasing new products.
Okay.
Even since going on Dragon's Den, even this year, we've released 2 higher powered models for people that have, if you have a big pickup truck or a large SUV, you can get more power than, excuse me, than the 1,000 watts that this has. So we've released higher power models. We've released specialized things for the RV market that you can power your trailer with.
So like charger batteries, for example.
Exactly. European markets, I had people come after the show and ask me, can we have the rights to the Philippines or to Mexico or things like that? So we've released models that are 220 volts, different voltages, different market spaces. So I would say that there's a lot of different things on there, and
that's pretty cool. Would you license out this product to a large retailer or manufacturer in exchange for royalties if that was ever presented to you?
Yeah, I will definitely do that. At some point when I find the right company that loves the product and loves the idea and can take it and run with it very well, absolutely, because I've got lots of other ideas and lots of other products on the drawing board which will come to life very quickly after that.
Interesting. Will the Car Generator be coming to stores anytime soon, or are you focusing on an online marketing and sales approach?
We're doing both, so we're doing online and doing very well at that, and we're also eventually going to come into retail, but these kinds of things take a long time to move through the system and get ready and all that, but we're doing both.
Sounds like you're on the path to being into some retail stores then.
We are.
Okay. Is this a company that you are looking to build out long term, or would you be open to an earlier exit if it were presented to you?
Yeah, I'd definitely be open to an earlier exit. I would not exit just like, here you go, goodbye. It would be very much to bring it to market in a 100,000 unit capacity, as an example, to really ramp it to the next level.
Okay.
But then leave it in a safe, in good hands.
With someone that you trust that will have good intentions for it in the future.
And then there's lots of more products that I'm going to create and bring to market.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay, and my last question is, where can people go to find out more about Car Generator and get one themselves?
You can actually get one right now. You can order online at cargenerator.com and go there. The most popular unit is this, the 1,000 watt unit. We picked that because it's the right kind of sweet spot that most cars can produce in the range without overpowering. So it depends. I would say that go to cargenerator.com and order your unit today.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time today and for sharing your story with me and with everybody else out there.
Thanks, Alex. And I would say to everyone out there, new inventors, entrepreneurs, go get it. Go do it. It's yours.